Hi, you're listening to Mindful Mutterings Goes Travelling, the mindfulness-based travel podcast for all of us adventurers who love to go travelling, love to live in the present moment and want to make life a more enriching experience. Thanks for listening. Hi, thanks for joining me. So this is all about our trip to Iceland, and we chose to fly to Iceland with Play, who are a new budget airline, and we were really pleasantly surprised. We checked in at the airport with no extra charge and were given 2 seats next to each other, again, no extra charge. Legroom is limited as expected, it's a budget airline, but the whole experience from start to finish was very calm, very welcoming and friendly, which is exactly as we found Iceland so far. We arrived yesterday and it was raining. This quickly brightened up and then glorious blue skies appeared, giving us an absolutely stunning view of the mountains and the sea as we arrived at our hotel. After a friendly welcome and easy check-in, we were really pleased to be given a room with the sea view, which is just perfect. After a cheeky glass of wine, we headed off for an early dinner as we had a Northern Lights tour booked for this evening. We headed off to Harry's restaurant on a recommendation from a friend and we were not disappointed. So if you're there, I thoroughly recommend it. Being a celiac, finding gluten-free food is the biggest hassle of any trip we take, but the staff there were so helpful and friendly, and I was soon enjoying beautiful Icelandic haddock, while my husband enjoyed what he described as the best lamb he had ever eaten. Very high praise indeed from a Greek. Sadly, just as fast as the weather changes, it was just crazy there, and literally they have every kind of weather in an hour. And the fast changing weather meant that our Northern Lights tour was postponed. So although disappointed, and we were, we quickly accepted the reality of our situation and came up with an alternative plan after booking us on for another tour. The good thing is we bought a package where you could just rebook the tours each night until hopefully you get to go. And that's something you really need to do if you're going to Iceland, because the weather is so completely out of your control. You just can't plan anything. So we got up this morning and the weather today was even worse. We had driving rain and winds of 47 kilometres an hour, making it almost impossible to stand up at times. So this meant that our whale watching and Northern Lights tours were cancelled again for today, and this was where I was really grateful for my mindfulness practice. It would have been so easy to get irritated and let this spoil our day, as primarily we'd come to Iceland to see both things. Instead, quickly accepted the situation, got rebooked, tried not to let it spoil anything that was happening. So instead we decided to walk to the harbour, find a coffee shop and write our postcards while watching the sea. Yeah, right. Did I mention the driving rain and the 47 kilometre an hour winds? Honestly, we could hardly stand up at times and we were often blown off course and just unable to resist the elements. We were just completely at their mercy. As luck would have it, we were blown down towards the Harper Concert Hall, so we headed inside. After a look around, very impressive, nice building, we took advantage of their free Wi-Fi and looked for things that we could do inside today instead. We love to travel, and the two most important things that we have learned that I'm going to share with you are: one, to be flexible. Travel is an adventure, don't be too attached to the way you want things to go or the things that you've gone there to do. Everything happens for a reason, and we've often ended up having a much better time than we would have done if things had gone the way we thought we should plan them. And the other one is, no matter how tight your budget is, always have something tucked away for the unexpected, because often the unexpected will appear. So we looked at our options. We quickly booked tickets for the hop-on, hop-off bus, which, as luck would have it, was arriving at the Harper in a few moments. And we had a really lovely tour of Reykjavik, during which we learned so much. And of all the options on the tour, we decided to get off at the Perlan, which is an amazing structure. So it's a glass dome on top of 6 hot water tanks in the middle of nowhere, offering a Wonders of Iceland exhibition. It was about £30 each to get in, but that included entry to all the exhibits and the shows. And it does seem that this is quite an expensive country, but when you actually look at what you get for what they charge you, it's not that expensive. It's actually quite good value for money, because everything is very comprehensive. And yeah, the reason that they have to do that is because the population is so low in Iceland, and they have a high quality or a high standard of living. And all the public services are funded through taxes. So it's kind of like a trade-off between lifestyle and income and costs. Anyway, Perlan was fantastic. We started with the Northern Lights experience, just in case we weren't meant to see them here. And it's amazing, it's great. It's in a domed theatre, and it's a film all about Aurora, how it's formed, the different meanings, the goddess behind it, the different beliefs and systems around the world and what it means to them. And it's just fascinating. I didn't even know that Aurora happened on Saturn, and yeah, we just learned loads. I won't spoil it for you in case you ever go, because it is a really amazing experience. So after that, we walked around an exhibition of ice and the environmental history, which actually, it doesn't sound it, but it was really, really fascinating. And then we did a lava experience, which was the footage and information about a recent volcano eruption. Again, really interesting. You know, I'm constantly amazed at just how little I know about stuff. And I love to learn. So yeah, I came out of all of those exhibits much, much wiser. And I love learning about nature and countries. So for me, this was a really fab experience, and I felt worth every penny that we paid, especially as they had a 360-degree viewing platform, which we decided that we had to go on because we were there and it was part of the experience. So this might not have been our best decision, as the rain was lashing our faces. It was like having needles stuck in your face. And the winds were still going at 47 kilometres an hour, which nearly blew me over, nearly grabbed my phone out of my hand as I was taking the photos of the view. And yeah, that was quite an experience, but I wouldn't have missed it for the world. But yeah, then, as we later learned, we could have done things a lot easier. So after escaping back into the warm, we decided a coffee was in order and we headed up to the cafe, which is lovely. It's a really, really nice place. And while we were chatting, we realised something was off, as the till area seemed to have moved. And we thought, oh, that's really cool, a revolving till area. I wonder why. Anyway, it was then that we realised that it was actually us moving, and that we hadn't needed to go outside and battle the elements for our 360-degree view, because we could have just sat in the cafe and enjoyed the building moving, and that would have given us the extraordinary view that we had outside without the needle jabbing experience of the rain and nearly being blown to our death by the incredibly strong winds. Still, near-death experience or not, it was fab, and I'm really glad we did it. So then hopped back on the bus, did another circuit of Reykjavik, and returned to the hotel for a warm-up before dinner and an interesting conversation in a bar with a Belgian guy about female equality and empowerment over Iceland Brennivin, vodka and gin, and his views on Norse mythology and tattoos. So yeah, interesting evening. So we then went back to our hotel for a bit of sleep, and I'll catch up with you when we know what happens tomorrow. Take care. Hi. So today's day 4 of our Iceland adventure, and we woke up to 47 kilometre per hour gusts of wind and rain again this morning. So the chances of our whale watching and Northern Lights trips taking place aren't looking so good. We started with a leisurely breakfast, made plans in case we weren't going to go out on our trips. And as we made our way back to the room, the receptionist confirmed that all whale watching trips had been cancelled for the day. And it is disappointing, but there's really nothing you can do about it. You really have to change your mindset when you're living in an environment like this, where the weather literally changes every 5 minutes. And, you know, you have two choices. You can get really frustrated and annoyed, and, you know, it will bring you down, but it won't change what's actually happening. Or you can just go with it and be really adaptable and make the best of a situation, because you're still in another country, still in you know, getting to explore all these amazing things. So it's about just keeping that perspective at the back of your mind. Right, so we sorted out our refunds, booked on the hop-on, hop-off, bus again, because we found this to be the cheapest and most flexible option for getting us around to the places we want to go. We wrapped up warm and went off to catch the bus to the flea market. And then when we got outside, to talk about the weather changing rapidly, we were really pleasantly surprised to find that the rain had stopped and the wind wasn't nearly as bad as it had been on Friday. So we decided to seize the moment and walk along the seafront and into the town centre. There were loads of birds, loads of birds, and we were really hopeful that if things continued to improve, we might actually get to do the Northern Lights trip. So we made our way to the flea market, which was full of pre-loved goods, traditional foods like dried fish, blueberry jams and sauces, Icelandic teas and salts, and a lot of licorice. They do seem to like that here. There were all kinds of Icelandic soaps and woolen jumpers, beautiful handmade linen clothes, as well as lots of jewellery made from lava or gemstones. And I did find the most gorgeous big silver ring with a ruby in it. It was a little pricey for me, and I have so much jewellery. So I very, very courageously and bravely walked away and took myself off to look at less exciting things. The weather was still good, so we went for a walk around the town centre and saw all the things that we'd seen on the bus a couple of days ago. And the buildings here are just fantastic. They seem to be made either from like really imposing natural looking stone, or they're just lovely looking wooden houses in beautiful bright colours with really simple roofs and clean lines and just lovely windows. The architecture is it's really lovely to see. Then we found this lovely little coffee shop, so we stayed in there, which is just lovely. It's got like this really relaxed, cosy, comfy, trendy environment, and really laid back atmosphere, and lovely, good quality teas and coffees. So we watched the world go by for a bit, and then with the help of the lovely coffee shop's free Wi-Fi, we plotted our route back to the hotel. As we left the coffee shop, it's just crazy how quickly it changes. The weather took a turn for the worse, strong winds and rain returned, and it was difficult not to be blown along by the gusts of wind. So we jumped back on the bus, and now the weather forecast had completely changed for the rest of the day, and rough weather was forecast, right through until we leave the next morning. So, like I said, the weather here is just absolutely crazy. And while we were here, we often heard people saying that if you don't like the weather, give it 5 minutes and it will have changed. And it couldn't be more true. So unsurprisingly, when we got home or back to the hotel, we found out that our Northern Lights tour was cancelled. And again, gutted, but I can't stress enough how insightful this weekend has been about opportunities to observe our attachment to outcomes and how we deal with it, and how we choose to be proactive in managing our mindset and making the best of the situation that it is. Because I know about mindfulness, I know how to behave to reduce my suffering, and on the whole, I do okay. My life is good, but I am only human, and there are times when I would quite like to have a hissy fit and stamp my feet because something isn't fair or it's not going the way I want it to. But there's this little voice, well, actually, it's not a little voice, she's actually quite a loud, shouty woman, calls me out on it and reminds me to just let it go, deal with reality, be open to opportunity, live in the present moment, and be grateful for the experience that I am having right now, because there's a reason I'm having that experience. I need to learn something from it, or I can grow from it. So I pulled on my big girl pants, gave myself a talking to, and started in my head listing all the amazing things that we'd seen and learned since getting to Iceland, the lovely people we'd met on our journey, and normal service resumed. So we decided to go and have a glass of wine, sort out somewhere for dinner, and get packed ready for our pick-up in the morning. So our daughter had given my husband these travel cards as a gift, and they make suggestions for when you're travelling. They're like little challenges. So we thought, well, if we've got nothing else to do, we'll have a go at those. And the random suggestion that we got that day was to ask someone to recommend a place to go and then go there. So we asked the receptionist where he recommended, and he suggested a bar called Dylan's. So after we'd gone out for another lovely meal of local produce, the food here was really good, we took ourselves off to this bar, which turned out to be very cool. And we had a lovely time. And to hedge our bets, we'd also asked the waitress in the restaurant where she suggested, because it was our last night after all, and we didn't want to sit somewhere that we didn't think was that great. And she had suggested Cafe Baron. This place was brilliant. It was really cool. We met some people in there who had this gorgeous, I think it was called a Chow Chow dog. Anyway, beautiful breed. Hadn't seen her before, and she was lovely. So we had a little cuddle with the dog. And we met a Russian ballet dancer who was now teaching in Iceland. And we met his partner, and she was a graphic designer who was also Russian, but they'd both been living in Portugal for a long time before coming to Iceland for him to take up this contract. So yeah, it was really, really interesting. We learned a lot about their perspective about things and about politics and the way that they viewed things. And his partner was regaling us with stories about Iceland and her perspective of the
Brexit fiasco and repeatedly asking me why we'd done it. Could give her no answer for that because it still mystifies me. But we had a really lovely time. It was so nice to meet them, really nice people. And yeah, the dog was gorgeous. So then we headed back to our hotel. And by this time, oh my goodness, the weather, the wind was just crazy. It was so hard to stand up. Heavy rain, there's like needles on your face. It was just such hard work to get back to the hotel. And we decided that, originally we'd thought we would walk along the seafront, have one last walk along there, maybe get to see the lights, who knows. But the weather was just making that impossible. So we decided that we would probably have a little nap before our 2:30 pickup to the airport, because we're not as young as we were, and putting an all-nighter for no particular reason, just, it gets harder. So we set the alarm for 1:45, but then, oh my God. So at 1 o'clock, I sat absolutely bolt upright, like someone had woken me up, and was absolutely compelled to go to the window. I mean, I was there before I even really knew what was going on. And as I'm looking out, I could see a yellowish line appearing in the sky, which opened up to green flickering lights. It's like, oh my God, it's the Northern Lights. So, not so gently by my husband, and got him up, quick, come and look at this. And we're both standing at the window and watched the same thing happen again. So it's like, right, okay, I didn't imagine that. That's definitely the Northern Lights. Oh, we were so excited. Quickly got our boots and coats on, went outside, and yep, we could still see them outside the hotel. And considering how much light was there, that was incredible. So we headed off down to the seafront and could already see some people out there that had started to gather. So it's like, right, we're not going mad. We are definitely seeing the Northern Lights. And for the next 20 minutes, we watched the most amazing and mesmerizing natural beauty. Honestly, just being there, the atmosphere, and it just fills you with such a sense of joy and wonder. Just absolutely amazing. And what a stroke of luck or intuition, or I don't know, whatever it was. I am so grateful for whatever it was that woke me up at 1 o'clock and just made me stand and look out that window. It's just incredible. I can't find the words. I did manage to get a couple of photos, but was far more focused on being present and watching the lights than I was about worrying about taking video and photos. So while I've definitely got them on camera, it's not, they're not award-winning photos by any means. But it was just incredible. And how lucky were we? Because my alarm then went off and the lights had faded anyway, and everyone was kind of wandering away from the seafront. So we went back in, grabbed our stuff ready to go to the hotel. By the time we came out, it was snowing again, and that weather lasted until we had boarded on our plane. So yeah, whatever, providence, intuition, we were meant to see those lights, because that 45-minute window was about the only time that day, other than first thing in the morning, where it wasn't lashing it down. And just, talk about a last minute amazing thing to happen before we left. So yeah, just incredible. And we've left Iceland with so many amazing memories, and we've learned we've learned so much and got a new insight into the mindset of the Icelandic people and the way that you need to adapt and live in an environment like this. So if you choose to visit Iceland, and I highly recommend it, here are some top tips for you. Take crampons. Doesn't matter how good your walking boots are, it's so slippery there. You will need the crampons for everywhere. And almost every natural site that you go to, they strongly recommend that you use them before you go walking. Manage your expectations about the tours that you book. Like I said, the island weather is just the most amazing weather system, and it makes it really difficult to plan anything. And the weather will win out. We are firmly put in our place by the weather. So have a list of alternative things that you can do inside, or different places that you want to go and see. Be present and mindful as much as you can. It makes traveling easier, and you'll be richer for it. And when you'll notice so much more about the experience that you're having. Put your phone down, pay attention to the people that you're speaking, look around you, take in every aspect of the experience that you're having. And it just takes travelling to a much, much deeper level. You don't necessarily need to take cash. They don't really use it in Iceland. but make sure you have plenty on your card, because you pay a fair price for quality goods. Their lifestyle is a very fine balance between quality and income. And as I said before, like, it's, you know, you get very good quality goods, or you get a good portion of food or drink for the money that you're paying. But until you realise that, it does seem a little pricey to start off with. Dress warmly and preferably in layers, because, like I said, it can go from sun to gale force winds in 5 minutes. And something waterproof from the top of your head to the tip of your toes is highly recommended, because if you're warm and dry while you're dealing with the weather, then it's not nearly as bad as it seems in the first place. And lastly, have the most amazing time. I can honestly say that Iceland has been like no experience we've ever had before, and we are so grateful to have been able to have this experience. So thank you very much for joining me on our adventure through Iceland. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you're in the process of booking your trip away. It's just been an absolute blast, and thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch, or you've got any comments, or you want to share your memories of Iceland, then you can contact me through my website, simplybe.org.uk, and have happy and safe travels wherever you may go. Take care. Bye. Hi. So, day 3 of our Iceland adventure, and today we woke up to snow and the brilliant news that our Golden Circle tour, our visit to the Kerrid Crater and Blue Lagoon experience was on. Fantastic. We've been waiting for this forever, so this is just amazing. So we met our very lovely driver Eddie and got on our way. It was still dark when we left, as sunrise isn't until 10 o'clock here at the moment. And that's quite weird, because, you know, you get up and you have your breakfast and you're halfway through your morning before it even starts to get light. But again, just another thing you have to get your head around and learn from. And we've learned loads of information about Iceland, and it's just been amazing. And again, on the tour, Eddie shared so much information about the way Iceland had been formed and colonised, that it's a relatively young country, being only 16 million years old, and that originally Scots were here before the Vikings settled. And the landscape is awe-inspiring. I mean, there's just huge, open, barren and desolate-looking expanses of land that are also just incredibly beautiful. I mean, it's very difficult to find words to describe our experience of Iceland so far, because it's like nothing we've seen before, but also it's just breathtakingly brutal and breathtakingly beautiful at the same time. You know, Mother Nature is in her full force here, and it's just stunning, absolutely stunning. And there's evidence of the tumultuous nature of the environment. Just everywhere you look, there's valleys and volcanic rock, and you are so aware of the changing environment on this island. And yeah, we learned that the lava that had covered everywhere, in a large smooth area, a bit like a car park, is called Pahoihoi. I hope the pronunciation is all right. And the lava that's like kind of settled in these big individual rocks that are really rough is called A'a. And both the words apparently originate from Hawaii and are used to describe lava worldwide. So we're off on our journey. We've headed north from Reykjavik to Thingvellir, and I apologise for the pronunciation if that's not how it's supposed to sound. And we arrived just after sunrise to a valley created by a rift in the two tectonic plates. So the North American and the Eurasian tectonic plates are moving at slightly differing speeds. And so these huge plates have there's a 7-kilometre gap between these two plates where there's been a rift. And the plates have come up through the earth, so you can see them, and they're just huge, absolutely huge. And so you've got this like tunnel thing that goes through it, which is, it just makes you feel so tiny compared to the awe and the magnificence of this place. And the ice, they've cleared a path, and the ice is about 4 foot deep, 4 foot thick, and it just kind of puts into place just how hard it can be to be in this environment. It's just an incredible place, and such a breathtaking homage to the force of Mother Nature and her ability to create and destroy as she sees fit. So we walked through the valley. Very grateful for a top tip from a friend to have crampons on our shoes, as it's incredibly slippery underfoot. very difficult to walk on. And yeah, I just, like I said, I can't find the words to describe adequately the awe this place inspires, and the sense of calmness that comes over you here. It's very peaceful, and it's kind of, yeah, it's just an area of stillness, and it just makes it an ideal location for contemplation and self-discovery. And I highly recommend that if you get the chance, you do the Golden Circle tour. So our next stop on this tour was Gilfoss, or the Golden Waterfall. So we've travelled west from where we were, and on the way we learned that all about the landscape and how it can change in a heartbeat here as the constant pressure changes because of the difference in the flow of these two plates causes rifts for lava and water pressure to escape, and this causes eruptions. And they have, I think he said 135 volcanic groups. So it's not even just 135 volcanoes, it's 135 groups of volcanoes. So the geology here is very, very closely monitored, and everyone we spoke to is acutely aware of the weather and what is going on under the surface of the town. And there are real-time measurements available, so everyone can see, what's happening and what the feedback is on the state of play, and everyone is very in tune with the changing environment. And we've also noticed just an incredible calm among the people here. And I can only imagine that when your home can be wiped out at any time, the only option is to live completely in the present moment and enjoy today. And I think this contributes to the attitude of the nation, although I have heard criticism that they don't make adequate plans for the future, or they're not very long-sighted in their development ideas, and that might become a problem in the future. But that is because of this mindset, and I think, well, that's from our perspective looking in. I think they've probably managed the situation, amazingly well, and they know what they're doing better than we do. So I just love this total living in the present that you experience here. And I know that depression is an issue here, but I get the impression also that that's largely due to the darkness and the harsh weather, rather than a yearning for material things or the race that we're put through in the UK and Europe, where you must achieve things, you must be busy, and the pressure is huge to be accepted and to keep up. You get the impression that's not really relevant here in such a fast-changing environment. And recycling and environmental awareness and buying local made good quality goods is a way of life here, and the local industry seems to be thriving. So anyway, I digress. We arrived at Gilfoss in a snow blizzard, and so walked along the top of the crater to get a bird's eye view of this absolutely majestic site. So the valley is 127 metres deep at its lowest point, and has been solely caused by erosion. And apparently, in times gone by, a British man had tried to buy this piece of land. And most of the land around here, the land, the mountains, the rivers, they're all privately owned in Iceland and then passed from generation to generation. Anyway, this British guy wanted to buy a dam so that he could, he wanted to buy the land so that he could dam the waterfall to create hydroelectric power. And although originally refused, one night he got the owner so drunk that he signed a contract of sale. So this contract was then legally contested over 2 generations, and eventually the daughter won. But when she died without a family. So she gave the land to the people of Iceland with the stipulation that it remain untouched as an area of natural beauty. And there's a lovely memorial stone dedicated to her near the waterfall. And again, I'm going to struggle with my words because these areas they're so big, and there's so much water rushing down this waterfall, and although it's white because, it's ice and it's snow, it's actually blue. You kind of there's a blue tinge to it, or then maybe there's a yellow tinge to it, and it's just incredible as the light changes, how the colour of the water and the ice and the snow around it changes as well. And it is just breathtakingly beautiful and elemental. And you can't help but become aware of its healing and cleansing energy. I think one of the first things that you do, because you're so surrounded by nature in all its rawness and its elemental beauty, is you tune into it really, really quickly. And yeah, you're very aware of changes in the energy, and it literally flows through you. So it is the most amazing experience. And the water that comes from the taps here in Iceland comes straight from the ground. So it's been filtered through miles and miles of volcanic rock. So that makes it naturally pure and in alignment with all water standards. No problems with the water here, and it is very lovely and fresh tasting. And then the hot water is usually provided from geothermal sources, making it excellent for your skin because it's still got all these amazing minerals in it, and very cheap to utilise because obviously it's heated for free by nature. Although there is an interesting odour of sulphur permeating the air when you have a shower. But again, something else to just make the experience richer of your time in Iceland. So after visiting the waterfall, we resumed, although you can go along the top of the crater, you can also go down these steps. Again, you will need your crampons, and you can stand at the base of the waterfall and just, yeah, the whole experience is just amazing. So we resumed our journey, and now we're going east this time to Giza, which is home of an active geyser, as the name would suggest. By this time, it was so cold. It was bitterly cold and snowing hard, and the smell of sulphur is incredibly strong here. But none of that really mattered because as soon as we got there, the first geyser, it erupted, the first eruption that we saw happen. And that's just like, just amazing, because this billowing cloud of steam goes up, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 meters, and it's just amazing. So then, because you know it's going to happen in the next 5 or 6 minutes, you can just front out the weather. And everyone's just absorbed in watching the boiling water bubble, because as it's heated from below, the steam is then fighting with the water on top, which is cooling it down until the pressure just becomes overwhelming, and then the steam bursts through in just an incredible eruption of steam and noise and spray, and yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. And by this time we were definitely in need of warming up. So we headed into the visitor centre and got some delicious traditional meat stew, which fortunately for me was gluten-free because I was freezing and needed warming up. But then it's about 2 o'clock, and we had every kind of weather so far. So we got back on the bus and headed south from where we were at Gullfoss down towards the Kerrid crater, which is essentially what you can see is the top of a dormant volcano, and it's got like a lake in it. And again, incredibly impressive. And we had the opportunity to walk around it, but even with our crampons on, it was so slippery and the visibility wasn't great and absolutely bitterly cold that we decided to just appreciate it from a relatively safe place at the top, and then quickly hop back on the bus and towards our final destination of the Blue Lagoon. So travelling southwest this time towards the Blue Lagoon, and when we got there, again, all you can see is this steam coming up, and there's just this blue luminescence over the place. Obviously, that's why they called it the Blue Lagoon. And it's a geothermal bath. So you get there and you're given wristbands, which do everything for you while you're there. They open the lockers, they allow access to the changing rooms. You can use them to buy drinks and face masks. And yeah, it's pretty much one band does everything. And everyone has to shower before you get in, because obviously you're getting into something that is natural and they need to maintain the balance. So you get showered, and then the walk from the changing room to the lagoon is an experience because you're in a swimsuit and it is freezing. But once you get in, it's just the most amazing thing. You get in, and all of a sudden, it doesn't matter how cold it is outside, it doesn't matter that it was snowing, because once you're in the lagoon, every ache melts away as this almost too hot water just surrounds and welcomes you. And you can literally feel your body just going, oh, yes, this is what I need. This is incredible. And of course, you're surrounded by mountains, and, you're outside. It's freezing cold. It's snowing. You're in this hot lagoon, and there's steam coming off it, and it mixes with the light, and it's like nothing I have ever seen before. So you kind of swim around a little bit, and there's like a little kind of log cabin on the lagoon, and that's where they have the face masks. So we had a silica one. So you put that on your face or wherever you want it, and leave it on for about 10 minutes and then wash it off. And obviously I now look 10 years younger, so woo-woo for that. And then you go to the other side, you swim around the other side of the lagoon, and there's a bar. Fantastic. So we got ourselves a glass of wine, and then there's these little seats that have kind of been carved out around the bar area so that you can sit in the lagoon and have your drink. So that was all very lovely and very civilized. And all around us, as I said, are these snow-covered mountains, and literally probably the most relaxing place on the planet, because everyone is just so blissed out, and it's just such a wonderful feeling. And you've got so many people from so many different countries coming together, and everyone's very relaxed, very chatty, and yeah, it was just lovely friendly people. And we spoke to lots of them about their experiences in Iceland and where were good places to go. And obviously, because the weather has just been so unforgiving, the biggest topic was the elusive Northern Lights and the number of tours that had been cancelled due to the weather. And so everyone was just trying to share tips for where you might get to see them, where the cloud cover might not be that dense that night. But yeah, a truly amazing experience, and so relaxing and soothing, and such an escape from reality. Like I say, I've never had an experience like it, and really can't find the words to describe the sense of well-being and absolute peace that it evokes. Absolutely beautiful. If you get the opportunity, go. You won't regret it. So as obviously you come out, and all the sulfur from the water you have to get off your skin, so another shower, and then they've got all these amazing mineral-based products for you to use while you're there. So that was very lovely. And then we were quickly returned back to our hotel. So after a quick pit stop to write some postcards, get them posted, we went off for a wander around our location, because by then, as it is wont in Iceland, the weather had changed. So it wasn't actually so bad. So we had time to check out some of the shops of interest, and because we'd already eaten at lunchtime, we weren't that hungry. So we're just wandering around to look for a little snack or something, and we found a fries bar. So here you can order fries and a drink, and pretty much any kind of sauce that you can imagine. So I like a bit of chili and spice, so I ordered the samurai one, which was incredibly hot. But yeah, just a great experience, and sat chatting to the customers there, and yeah, it was just a really lovely, chilled out way to finish off our day. So we kept an eye. We'd been keeping an eye on the time since we got back, as someone at the hotel had seen the lights over the harbour the night before, and we were determined to grasp every opportunity to see the lights. And apparently they're best seen between 11 o'clock and 3 a.m. in the morning. However, by the time we left the fries bar, it was raining again, and the rain didn't let up, and the forecast was for rain all night, so there was no chance of seeing them again today, unfortunately. But fingers crossed, the weather will improve, and our whale watching and Northern Lights tours will go ahead tomorrow. So thanks for listening. Join me tomorrow and find out how we got on.